You're listening to Discussions with Justin.
And then it's like, oh no. All right, Ruben, we're recording. How's it going?
Good, Justin. How are you?
I can't complain. We reached out on social media. It's winter time here, and winter blues have set in. So you're here to help fix that, right?
Yeah, 100%. Let's make sure we turn our happy lights, right?
Well, you know what? It's funny because I was reading. I don't know if it was I was reading it or something that you posted about, waking up in the morning, and even when you're pouring your coffee, try to get the sun to, don't look at the sun with your eyes open, but
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so that touches on the importance of understanding our circadian rhythm.
okay,
So there is three major pillars when I look at how the seasons affect our well-being. And by well-being, it means our mood, our energy levels, our motivation. It all comes down to understanding why it happens, so then we can start looking for solutions. Because what you just mentioned is one of the solutions.
yeah,
There's a handful of them.
about the time change, right? We were talking earlier before we hit record. We were talking time change. Yeah,
time change is kind of one of those. I think most people get the difference. I haven't really talked to anyone that lives in the four seasons and doesn't relate to the fact that the seasons affect you. But a very good example would be daylight savings time. When the time changes, how your circadian rhythm adapts to that change, it really depends on how you know how to adapt your behaviors. So one of the main pillars is human biology, and within human biology is the circadian rhythm. It's the little computer in our brain that is ran by the lighting. So when it gets dark, our brain start producing melatonin, and it's a chemical party going on in our brain. So melatonin is the easiest one to understand because once it gets dark, we start producing melatonin, and it gets to a point about after 2 to 4 hours that most average adults will start feeling sleepy. So you're in Canada, right? So it gets dark by you say it was like 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock it starts. The sun starts to 4 o'clock. It's in 4:30 right now. It's dark.
It's dark, yeah. So in the deepest part of the winter, it might be 3:30 and it's already dark.
Yeah,
and what happens is that you might feel tired a lot earlier during the winter time because it's getting darker. Your brain starts producing melatonin, and a lot of people have psychological struggles with it because there is a big difference between our biology and our psychology. Meaning, what reality do you make out of the fact that you are tired?
Well, for me, it's dark. It's bedtime now.
Yeah.
Time to go to bed. It's dark. It's bed.
Yeah, exactly. But some people will fight that. So let's say that you get naturally tired by 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock when it's super dark out. You have two options. You can go to sleep or you can fight it. You can, some people start making ideas in their head that, it's their fault, that they are not motivated enough, they are not go-getters. The list goes on and on, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is that if you go to sleep early, you can wake up early.
Yeah. Oh, I do. I wake up early. Like some mornings I'm up 4:30, 5 a.m. in the morning, ready to start my day.
Yeah, which is a healthy thing to do. So some people might wake up at 4:30 and then they just stay in bed because they don't have anything else to do. They might say, well, I don't start work until 8. I don't know. But what I have noticed is the importance of creating routines that align specifically to that season. So perhaps you wake up at 4:30 and you go to the gym because you might don't start work till 8 perhaps or till 7, but you have that 2.5 hour gap there. What do you do with that? So going to the gym early in the morning also helps you to create other source of neurochemicals that you actually need during this time of the year. So it also start resetting your circadian rhythm. Usually when you go to the gym, there is a lot of lighting involved. That's kind of where it comes in place to wake up early and get some light in your face, even though it's not natural light because at 4:30 it's still dark.
Still dark, yeah.
You can turn on the happy light, maybe if you have one. Or you can turn on, just bright lights in your kitchen while you're drinking and sipping your coffee. And what that does is that it lets your circadian rhythm know it's time to wake up, and it starts clicking in the 16-hour cycle of being awake. Because you want to sleep about 8 hours. That's like the healthy recommendation for any human, to have 5 deep cycles of sleep. So what you want to do is avoid you waking up, but your circadian rhythm still not resetting, because it is very sensitive to light and temperature. Actually, the light goes in line with the temperature, and it's just your biological clock. So there is a lot of ways that you can use to direct your biology, but more importantly, it comes from the behaviors that you do. So I'm big into seasonal routines. That's really what it comes down to. Seasonal, how to increase your productivity, season after season, how to achieve more of what you want to achieve on a specific season. Really being able to see the whole picture and seeing how the seasons change throughout the year and adapting to it, instead of thinking that, hey, I go to sleep every day at 9 and I wake up at 6 every day. No, sometimes during the winter, like you saw, you go to sleep at maybe 8 and you wake up at 4:30. But in the summertime, you experience the opposite. So let's talk about the opposite for a second.
Sure, yeah.
Summertime, at what time it gets dark?
8, like pitch dark, 8:30.
8:30.
Yeah.
It doesn't get darker maybe at like 9, 10 p.m. sometimes, during the peak time of the summer.
Yeah, you're right, around 9, something like 8:30, 8:30, it's getting low, and then it's dark at 9:30.
Okay, yeah. So I'm talking about the brightest day of the year. And we do an exercise, which is to identify. I basically send you to a website, give you a few dates throughout the year, and I make you log in the sunrise, the middle of the day, and the sunset, so you can have a pretty good idea about that, because it creates awareness. And there's a few more columns in there, but basically what I want you to know is that there's a dramatic difference between the darkest time during the year and the brightest time during the year. In the Midwest, where I live, is about 6 hours. The day length is 6 hours different. I would expect in your case might be a lot longer, since you live so farther up north. So in your case, I would say I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 8 hour difference between the shortest and the longest day. And that's pretty much a 2-day in one, when you compare to the darkest time of the year, right?
Yeah.
So my point is, if you're not conscious about that, some people really struggle with the fact that it's actually, from a biological perspective, from your circadian rhythm. If you truly understand that the lighting cycle dictates at what time you go to sleep, and we start raining or time to go to sleep based on the sunset, instead of, it's 9 p.m., well, you're going to have a really hard time going to sleep at 9 in the middle of the summer. Which means if you're trying to maintain your winter routine of waking up early and going to the gym in the summertime, you're going to fail. You're not going to be able to support it.
No, you're right.
So it's just adapting our routine, knowing exactly what's heading our way, being proactive, so that we can achieve every single area of our life, whatever we want in every single area, being realistic. The idea is to make it as convenient as possible, so that we can achieve more with less effort. Because what ends up happening is that, okay, you had a great winter, you're working out, you're waking up early. We start transitioning into the springtime, the daylight savings happen, and then you start feeling awkward. A week goes by, 2 weeks go by, you start fighting that, I'm not as diligent as I wanted to be. I'm not going to the gym as usual. It triggers like another side of behaviors. It's like a snowball that triggers that when you don't start your day the way that, you used to. But just a psychological element of being tough with and saying, it's my fault, but not realizing that since the environment changed,
Mhm.
now you're going to sleep later, and you naturally have to wake up later. So your circadian rhythm has shifted and has been disrupted, but your routine hasn't account for that.
Okay. So basically, what you're doing is you're prepping yourself before these changes and everything happen. So it's not like a huge, well, like you said, it's dark now, it's time to go to bed. You can routine yourself not to go to bed when it gets dark, stay up later. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and you accept the fact. I grew up in a home where we will go to sleep by 9 p.m. every night, and we will up by 6. I used to live in Venezuela. That's where I'm from.
Okay,
So I kind
cool.
of came to the Midwest thinking about that. And I felt miserably. I was struggling with seasonal affective disorder. I just didn't know anything about the seasons. I had no idea. And, my story is one of hitting rock bottom because seasonal affective disorder, like being a go-getter, trying to, I'm an entrepreneur. And I was just truly struggling, and I didn't really even know what was happening until my wife tells me one day, "Hey, you have the winter blues." And I'm like, "What is that?"
And a lot of people are, though. Like, a lot of people don't understand that, like, seasonal depression is a real thing. It's not,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
really, like, I was reading something the other day. There's this, uh, I don't want to say like a disease or anything, but there's another, it's called the four seasons, where your body it goes through the seasons. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah.
affects you, like, bad, like,
Well,
mentally.
it is. So let me just put it this way. This way, like what you're describing, I didn't ever saw it as a disease. I have never read about it. I would be interested in reading it. But what I can testify, and that's what I'm doing, right, is that I acknowledge the energy of every season.
Mhm.
Every season has an energy. So the root of all this knowledge comes from medicine, traditional Chinese traditional medicine. And there is a lot into it that comes from the yin yang theory. For every positive, there is a negative. It's harmonious. It's not a straight line.
No.
It goes in ups and downs. So when you're in the winter, you're in the darkest part where, your energy is at the lowest,
Mhm.
the
Absolutely.
darkest time of the year. But then there is a peak, and it goes up all the way to the summer. We were talking about the shortest day in the year, the longest day.
Mhm.
There is the same thing as the energy of every season. The winter is one of introspection. So we're led to stay indoors and think. And if you don't guide that, what you're describing as a distortion, as a disease,
Mhm.
is basically the negative influence of the seasons compared to the positive influence of the season. Let me give you another example that is less common. Even though I can guarantee you, I'm going to tell you this, and you're probably going to want to raise your hand because it is universal experiences. It's just that we don't recognize it. It's easier for us to recognize when we are low and depressed, or when somebody's not really doing what they're supposed to be doing, like going for it, working hard. And we look down on that because society nowadays wants to be very productive.
Yeah.
But that is the overextension, like the overall, like the energy of the winter is hitting way too hard to somebody, right? And you can
Mhm.
see it. The exact same thing happens in the summer, when the energy of the summer and the spring is so high, and the person is so high and is so um spontaneous,
Yeah.
and it can become like making errors of not choosing the right things or not going the right direction, but doing a lot of things.
Yep.
And maybe it's like drinking too much, being too high,
Mhm.
and being too friendly and being too spontaneous, don't sleeping. That's what's called hypomania. Basically, it's like there's all levels of energy, and when it gets out of control, it's too high. Well, the first step, when it's a negative too high of an energy, is called hypomania.
Okay.
And that is basically a very mild sort of mania, basically, being maniatic, like having too much energy, going crazy. Uh, that is just so you can see the extremes.
Yeah.
But we all gather somewhere in the middle. Those are just the black and white extremes. And I experienced both of them. Like, I wouldn't go crazy, but I would go and tackle a lot of projects that ultimately wouldn't really like leading me in the purpose that I wanted to go. but I was busy. I was, flipping a bunch of houses. I was maybe not working on the numbers and the computer, but I was running from house to house because the energy of the summer is one of movement. Like we're gonna be drawn towards going outside and doing something, mowing the lawn, mowing the lawn, or
Yeah.
cutting the trees, or going for a hike, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So the point being is like sometimes we can do it at a negative level when we ignore the other side of things that we have to do, Um, so there's beauty in understanding what the energy of the season is and really identifying and see where you are in that scale.
Yeah. No, for sure. No, it makes perfectly sense. My next question is, what inspired you to start the seasonal movement?
Yeah, so I'm the founder of the seasonal movement. I have probably been thinking about this for over 5 years. My whole seasonal affective disorder started over 10 years ago, and I basically found success in my life when I really figured out how the seasons were affecting me. Like I always had the same drive. I always had the same mission and vision and being successful and providing and, creating passive income. And I really hit it big when I did my first seasonal routine. So the seasonal movement is my intention to create a community that acknowledges how the seasons affect us and give practical guidance throughout it. So I have become over the years one of the ways that I really it helped me understand that this is not just human experience, but it's proven by science. Is understanding neuroscience. So
Okay.
we give a lot of practical, uh, basically tools and steps, and to understanding how the environment affects you from a psychological perspective, from a neurological perspective, and how it affects your neurochemicals and your balances. So we use neuroscience, we use the circadian rhythm, and we use traditional Chinese medicine to create a philosophy of creating seasonal routines that will support you all year round. So I created a method. Um, and again, the inspiration comes from my battle with seasonal affective disorder 10 years ago, and
Okay. Okay.
just how I developed myself for survival, right? Like
Yeah.
how I wasn't planning on making anything out of it, but it has become my purpose in life to basically bring light to this one subject.
And it's a subject I think too that gets overlooked. Like people don't think like I said, they don't think it's a real thing. It's just they think people are just crying for attention, and it's not. Like it is a real thing. Like you do suffer from it.
Yeah, the depression it probably be when people are crying, and that is probably like the
Yeah.
darkest, like the deepest part of the whole color scheme.
Yeah.
But there is
Yeah.
so many effects before then:
Mhm.
anxiety, confusion, lethargic states, low energy, low motivation. And like we can all relate to it. We don't need to be on the black. We can
No.
all be on the dark gray, like
Yeah.
we balance throughout the year
I'm
with this.
sure I'm sure at least a room of 10 people, I'm sure 8 of them might stand up and say, yeah, I got that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I
Yeah.
tend to start with that question on when I'm speaking, and yeah, about 8 out of 10 people will know. Yeah, I know what the winter blues are, and
Mhm.
I can relate to it to a certain degree.
So what is the core philosophy of the seasonal movement?
Well, the core philosophy is to understand and become aware of how the seasons affect you, to really use that to be proactive,
Okay.
to understand again from a energy perspective what is the energy of the season, and to understand from a biological perspective how it affects your body, to then create a routine that is specific for every season and it aligns with your personal goals. So let me just put it this way: the winter tends to be a lot of introspection, and it tends to be a lot of looking inwards and planning. You can use that very positively when you start looking into planning, looking back at last year, realigning your goals, start a new podcast, but when you do it with the picture in mind, winter is great to do that.
Mhm.
So a negative example will be that you get depressed, right? The negative effects of it. So it's very difficult if you're in the winter time of the year and you're trying to go with an summer-like energy. Like
Yeah.
if trying to match your summer peak in your winter time, there's gonna be a lot of frustration. There's gonna be a lot of basically like pulling instead of entering into the flow of the river. Like you're
Mhm.
swimming against the current. That's why it's important for us to understand and become self-aware of how those seasons affect us, because there's human universality within all this, but everybody is affected differently. My business is different than your business.
Yeah.
My family is different than yours. So you truly want to get in tune. We can guide you and we can tell you what's the normal process during this time of the year, but you learn over time. And what we do is that we create a process to essentially help you develop those routines season after season, so that after you're done in a year, you created a document that now that is your yearly
Yeah.
season. That's your yearly routine.
Yeah.
Because there is power in understanding that it's cyclical,
Mhm.
and there is power in recognizing the patterns and then shaping them for your advantage. So we want to achieve more with less effort,
Yeah.
by entering into the flow and aligning our routines with the seasons and how it make us feel, how it make our biology, how like using it for our advantage essentially.
Well, like you said, the first thing to do is commit to a routine. It's like a person going to the gym for the first time. It's like, oh, I don't want to get up out of my bed because at 5 o'clock, I just want to lay here. And well, there's a couple things around that. If you go back to sleep, your brain is going to go back into that sense of it's nighttime again. Let's go back to sleep. So you're going to be tired throughout the day. But if
Yeah,
you just commit, it's only going to take 3 days max
yeah, yeah,
to do that, to get up and go to the gym. You're going to be fine. I guarantee it.
yeah. It takes about 4 days, yeah, three to
Okay.
4 days for the circadian rhythm to start adapting to it. Like you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I was reading something that you had on your Instagram page about melatonin. That
Mm-hmm.
something about I can't quite remember now. I have a memory on me. It's winter blues, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
no, but you were mentioning something that like you had a picture up about melatonin, like not wanting to get out of your warm bed in the winter, and more melatonin is actually doing more harm than good. I think something like that.
Yeah, well, again, our circadian rhythm will regulate our melatonin production.
Mm.
And what we want to do is to understand how that works to create a healthy balance in our system. That's the thing. It's like when we are in the extreme dark and the extreme time of the winter, that really kind of chipped us into a little bit of an imbalanced place. So what we want to do is that if we're in the lowest time of the winter, we want to increase that a little bit, from the perspective of energy, from the perspective of output. We just want to increase it a little bit. We don't want to match perhaps our summer, but we want to increase it a little bit. And
Little
then
bit.
in the summertime, we actually want to decrease it a little bit. We don't want to match the winter. There's still going to be a gap,
Hmm.
but we want to lower it. And the reason why is because, well, number one, in the winter, we have responsibilities and we have goals and objectives that we want to meet. So we can't just go in a complete hibernation. You know what I mean? Like that's not the goal here at all. We want to actually be productive. But in the summertime, if we don't take care of ourselves and we don't rest a little bit, we will be led towards a burnout. When you just go for months at a time and don't take a break, which is
Yeah.
kind of like the natural energy of the summer, like you just want to have so much fun, but you
Fun.
get about taking care of yourself,
Yeah.
you are inevitably overcharging your nervous system, and it will lead towards a burnout. Obviously, when you accumulate seasons of just trying to maintain the summer-like production and energy, that's inevitably where you end up. But just as a specific is that in the summertime, we do want to bring some routines to calm our nervous system. For example, I know the last thing you want to hear in the summertime is taking a nap. Most people will think of a nap as like a winter thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Like you said, you want to go, 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 go.
yeah, But if you go, you take the risk of overcharging your system, you know?
Mhm.
So the day is so long. Like we were saying, it's pretty much just 2 days in one compared to the winter days. So what I have noticed is that within the routine, there is a very specific break where you should calm yourself down. So what we do is that we use the ultradian rhythm at that point. Is we first want to optimize your week, and then we want to optimize your day, depending on the season. In the summertime, usually every single day we have 3 breaks in between. The specific reason why is because our ultradian rhythm is the energy waves that we experience throughout the day, the focus in the intensity that we have to focus in something for so long. And it's usually about an hour and a half, 2 hours. That's where our optimal cognitive level will just tank. You just you're going to get stuck. You're going to feel like, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? I need a break. So we end up with a mid-morning break, lunch break, and mid-afternoon break. So during the mid-afternoon break, this is between tasks. You just take a 20-minute break. I'm talking 15, 20-minute breaks in between. So in the summertime, it's really good to do a little bit of a breathing meditation to calm yourself down. Like, you're not going to be able to close your eyes for 10 minutes if you don't do this, because in the summer, we're like going.
Yeah.
But if you use the breathing technique to calm yourself down, because that's what breathing gives us. When you do breathing techniques, you can either increase your energy or lower it, depending how you do it. If you do it in a calm manner, you can relax yourself a little bit, and then you can close your eyes for 5 minutes. If you can do it for 10, great. You just give your body whatever it needs to relax and release that tension that naturally builds throughout the summer. So when you do that daily, you're taking care of yourself, and you are preventing a burnout. You're preventing an overload of your system. You are calming yourself down so that you are not too spontaneous, so that you are not, it grounds you, which is what you need during that time of the year. Compared to the winter, you already have that.
Yeah.
So in the winter,
right.
I actually do breathing meditations to increase your energy. So it's like, we know all these benefits of, meditation is great. Yoga is great. Exercising is great. But how you use it on a specific season is more important than the activity itself. If that makes sense.
No, it does. It makes perfect sense what you're saying. And like, that's the thing too. Like, if you're at work and you're on a 15-minute break, just go practice breathing. Like, calm yourself, relax yourself.
Which is totally what you don't want to do. What you want to do is go and get a coffee and keep going, because you're just, hype, right? Like, that is the energy of the summer. Like, we just want to keep going. A lot of the behaviors that we have, and this is what really hit home when I realized that there is such a thing called as the iceberg behavioral cognitive model, which essentially tells that only 5% of what you see on an iceberg is that the other 95% is below the surface. You only see 5%. And that is equivalent of our conscious mind and our unconscious mind. So 95% of our brain capacity is usually being used in non-conscious activities like your heartbeat, regulating your temperature, digestion. I mean, the list just goes on and on. When it comes down to understanding where that 95% is paying attention to, there is 3 factors, which is the environment. So everything in that 95% is genetically created for survival. So it's what allows us to be here today. But it doesn't really allow us to be successful. It's just to survive. So they often contradict themselves. So when the environment changes, not just on the weather or on the sun, that's just one of them. But then social environments also change dramatically by the season. Like, the energy of the people around you in the winter is very different than the summertime. And the holiday season, the energy and the social dynamics in your environment, with your family, with your friends, with your coworkers, it completely changes.
Changes, yeah. It's like it's like it goes. To me anyway, I find the holidays, everyone's like, okay, gotta move, and everyone. But then once December 25th is over, everyone's on like almost like a natural high. It just goes,
Yeah.
and you hit twice as hard, I find.
Yeah. And the reason being is because when you have those social environments change, there is a different neurochemical production happening in your brain. When you see a kid opening their gifts, they're going like crazy, right?
Mhm.
They're like, I got a gift, I got a gift, I got a gift. You see them an hour later, they already move on. They don't care.
Yeah.
But what happened in that moment is that they were overloaded with, happy feelings. And what happens is that we get depleted. Like, it's not sustainable. It's not healthy. Like, you want a healthy production of every single chemical in your brain. But during the holiday season, there is so much anxiety. It's not just the event. It's
No,
before the event,
it's
during
before
the
the
event,
event. Yeah.
and after the event. There's different sequences we go through. And when you look at Christmas, for me, Christmas is a 6 event holiday. Like my small family, my wife's small family, my wife's big family, work related events, church related events. There's all these events happening. And again, before, during, and after. So that all that social environment very drastically changed once that's over, and it goes to nothing. Like, there is no social events happening for the next 3 to 4 months. And it's like the worst time in the year for that to happen because, again, people that experience the winter blues, there's a lot of relation with that, with those two contrasting events. So what I do when I break down the seasons is not by, hey, the calendar says that winter is on December 21st.
Mhm.
No, what I break it down to is I look at the lighting cycle and I look at social behavior. So a big example will be summer break when kids go to school. When kids stop going to school. I have a early summer and a late summer routine because of that. And I encourage that because if you don't adapt your routine during that time of the year, you're most likely going to feel it subconsciously. Like, you're going to be a mess because your routine completely changes.
Mm.
So it's not just the weather, it is also the social dynamic. So
Yeah. When you
there's
say social dynamics, like when you're watching people's behavior, like are you talking like psychology, like you're reading people or?
well, just look at your environment and look around you, and yeah, surely the season will make people act like, in the summertime you're walking, or in the springtime, let's put it this way, the first day of spring, you go for a walk, everybody's going for a walk. You know, that day that turns warm all of a sudden, there's still a little snow and it's melting, but it's nice out and it's sunny. Everybody's walking their dogs and you're walking, and everybody's like, hi,
Yeah.
hi, hi. In the wintertime, if you go for a walk, you just walk across people. People don't even look at you.
No.
I mean, for the most part.
No, you're absolutely right.
So yeah, there is an aspect of that social, natural introspection happens in the winter that completely changes in the spring. But I primarily related the most drastic shift you feel is with holidays and getting together for
Okay.
events.
I got
So
what you're
what I
saying.
do is I make you think ahead the next 3 months and document what events are coming up. So full time usually gets pretty packed. And then winter is like nothing there. Like, there might be a few holidays, like a few birthdays, something
Yeah,
like that.
that's it. Nothing.
So what we do is going back to, so that's the first step of the process, is to identify what's heading your way, both in the lighting cycle and then on the social cycle. But the reason that we want that information is so that we can use it in our weekly schedule.
Okay.
So I'm going to help you create a weekly schedule for the specific season you're living in alignment with the life cycle. So the first behavior that we look in your schedule is sleep.
Mhm.
So from a neurological perspective, what you want to do is create a healthy balance of hormones and neurotransmitters in your brain.
Okay.
So in order to do that, the number one most important behavior is sleep. So we align your sleep with the sunset and make sure that you get your 8 hours of sleep realistically, because one thing is to say you're going to do it, but then when you start looking at your schedule, you might be like, well, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So
But it goes back to the routine. It goes back to try to get in the routine of it though. Like,
Well, not even from a laziness perspective is to make sure sometimes we don't really align all the routines so that you can actually perform them. Sometimes
okay,
like what we're talking like what you're talking is that people just don't want to get up. But
okay,
sometimes it might be that they have to get up earlier because they have to take the kids to school, but then they have to put them to bed later. It's just making sure that we create a pre-bed routine that would allow you be in bed by the time you want to be, look at your day, and then so you can wake up at the time you want on that specific season.
okay,
Then the other thing we want to look is at your exercise. And, we were talking about exercise, like we can go in a lot of detail, but from a high level perspective, what we're looking is at what time exercise for you becomes the most convenient during this time of the year and becomes the most achievable based on your schedule with the understanding of how your circadian rhythm works. So in the wintertime, it might be easier for you to go to the gym at 5 in the morning, compare that in the summertime, right?
yeah,
So what I see in most cases is that we end up with with a morning routine for working out in the fall and in the winter, and then an afternoon workout in the spring and in the summer. But it's because the way that we align the sleep with the sunset and the way that most people's routines work, and since the day is a lot longer, you kind of end up working out that way in the spring and the summer compared to in the winter. But there is a lot of ounces into looking at it. The idea is that you do want to do it. Like the idea is like, I'm excited about this. Like this is actually very convenient. And if we make sure it's in alignment with your circadian rhythm, what we're doing is that we're optimizing the way that you feel and perform. Because when you are optimized from a natural perspective from your body and what's happening in the environment, it's gonna be easier for you to perform the things. You're gonna perform a lot better. Things are gonna come a lot natural. When you start having these imbalances, then again the black will be in the winter depression, right?
yeah.
But there's all sorts of shades. You just feel uncomfortable. You are not performing at your best.
Yeah,
Um,
do you think seasonal, I call it seasonal depression, winter blues, do you think it affects kids as much as it does adults?
yeah. So yes, absolutely.
Okay,
And there has been some studies about it that most people think that the kid might be introverted and might be shy because they might haven't developed all the perspective, but in reality, they are just kind of low for the winter time at school,
okay,
and they are kind of like shy and low. But I have observed my own children, and again, from a personal experience, it matches the research that has been done, which is that just think about it: a 5-year-old doesn't know what time it is.
no,
And I use that against them all the time. Let me give you an example. Like yesterday, I put them to bed by 8:30, and that was just my wife was like, "Oh my god, it's like 7:30, and I'm already telling them it's time to go to sleep." They don't know what time it is. I tell them, "Look, it is dark." And interestingly, even without going there, I have seen my son. I have seen my son going to sleep by 7:30, 8 o'clock. Not all the time, but sometimes in the winter time, obviously. That
yeah,
never happens in the summer.
summer, no, yeah,
And then he has even complained to me, I'm so tired. I don't like this. This is, he has complained. And I'm like, buddy, that's normal. You just have to go to rest. There's no reason to be up late. Like if you're
mm,
tired, you just go to sleep. That's pretty normal. It's winter time. And I explain him, you know, I don't make a big deal about it. And I let him, and because he's in that rhythm, because we don't know what time it is. Like as adults, even our brain or circadian rhythm doesn't care what time it is.
yeah,
So we have to keep that in mind. That is extremely fascinating when it comes down to daylight savings time. Because how do we address that? How do we properly adjust to that change? You mentioned that it takes you like 3 months sometimes. Like you just feel like it goes forever.
yeah. It's like when it happens, it's like I'm fine the 2 days after it happens, and all of a sudden it's like my rhythm's all out of whack. And 2 to 3 months it takes me to get normalized, I guess.
Yeah. So the idea is, so what we do is that we transition our routines in that time of the year. So we're proactive. And there are a few ways to do it, but I'm going to give you just one, the one that I believe is the best. Now, if you're an entrepreneur and you have control over your time and you're able to basically show up at work anytime you want, which is you work a lot, right?
Yeah.
And then you are able to work out at the time you want and so on. The approach that I have about circadian rhythms is about daylight savings time, is that in the springtime, that's when we go from the winter routine to the spring routine. It just makes so much sense. It's doing that exact same. That's the cutoff date. Since you're going to be disrupted, you disrupt your whole schedule to adapt to it properly. And that's going to be your routine until the summertime. And the springtime is different than the fall time because right now we're gaining a minute or two every day, right?
Yep.
But in the springtime, daylight savings time, they're going to remove that. So it's going against, it's like contradictory. So the springtime is very difficult for most people because it just contradicts what you have been, you were in a rhythm, your circadian rhythm sees that and it's like, oh, we're getting a minute a day. I'm going to delay all my functions for a minute.
I wonder, speaking of that, I wonder how hard mentally and physically on your body it is, the daylight savings. Like, what kind of damage long term does it do to you?
Yeah. There is psychological, mental, negative results from this, and it has been studied. There is something called spring fever, which is that the rate of suicides increases dramatically during the springtime. I don't know if it's related to daylight savings time or just the energy of the season that is just such a high that people with bipolar disorder or just simply, people that have been depressed all winter, they finally find the energy, something spiked them and they do something. And there is a relationship, it's around that time.
Yeah.
That's a very drastic effect. But yeah, they have done studies on rats, and those changes take basically that if you know how to do it, it takes about a week to adapt to it.
Okay.
But yeah, it is extremely negative. Like I was saying before, when you have an optimized circadian rhythm, you are in the flow basically. Sleep is better, exercise is better. Body functions,
Life in general is better.
everything in general is better. So when you're out of rhythm, and then when you add on the psychological backslash, like, oh my gosh, like what's wrong with me? Or, like the negative self-talk to it, it can magnify itself. So I've been there, and we have a strategy to combat that in the springtime, also in the fall time. Because in the fall time, the effects of daylight savings times are different. Basically, you just get dark so much earlier at that point. So again, we adapt our routine at that moment. So there are certain times during the year that I'm like, hey, this is a time to adapt, and this is why. Let's do it together. Let's go through our framework and let's adapt our weekly routine so that then we can ensure that we are in the rhythm of the season for the next 3 months. So what I encourage is to commit for a routine for those 3 months. Sometimes it's 2.5 months, sometimes it's 3.5 months, and just commit for that period. What that does to you is that basically it gamifies your year. It creates novelty. Like I was telling you earlier, sleep, exercise, dieting, outdoor connection, nurturing relationships, and what I just mentioned, novelty. Those are the most impactful behaviors and activities that you can have to be a healthy human being. I mean, literally, to increase neuroplasticity, to make a longer life, to have a better, longer life from any area. Those are the most important activities. So we look at them and make sure they are in harmony within that in your weekly routine. You're gonna repeat them week after week, and you commit to that for about 3 months. Now you have something to look for, and it's something new. The idea is that it's something that you look forward to do because it's in alignment with the season. Like Like you're not going to be playing baseball in the winter. Like you're not going to be looking forward to it.
So, what are some practices and activities people can do in the winter to beat the winter blues or even to help with it?
Yeah. So I'm going to forward. So the important thing we want to consider is that you have to have a good base before you look into the biohacks. So when it comes to activities, I already mentioned the sleep, exercise, like all those. But other than that, now we're entering into what now has become biohacks, right? Um, like cold plunges, hot saunas, infrared lighting, the happy lighting, the meditation, the like all those are biohacks. What I want to say is that I can tell you specifically per season how using those is the most beneficial, but that won't bypass if you don't pay attention to the circadian rhythm. If you just think that, taking a pill once a day is going to solve the misalignment that you're experiencing, you first have to work on a solid foundation so then you can implement these biohacks. So in the winter time, we were talking about lighting. So lighting it has been proved scientifically to be extremely beneficial. And what I do is that I have it right here in my desk. So when I'm working, I turn it on. And I'm not religious about it. Like, it's not like I have to have 20 minutes of lighting.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have to be so close.
You just
Like,
turn it on enough to know, you know what, I could use a little bit today and just, yeah.
yeah. And it starts, so it will start in the fall time. I start early as soon as things start shifting because I know I'm going to be needing that. So it's like we have like a battery reserve, is what it feels like. That by the time the summer is over, it's by 100%. And then by the time the winter is over, it's at -5 or something sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So one that is not a daily activity that I highly recommend, and we are creating a retreat, a winter retreat, in Rotterdam, Honduras. It's basically going out to the Caribbean and having some fun for a week. We are implementing, there's going to be a breathing meditation day. There's going to be a yoga meditation day, a yoga day, but there's going to be, so it's a kite surfing day, a snorkeling day. It's just having fun in a
Fun.
community,
Getting you away from the winter blues,
getting you
right?
away from the winter, because there is such a thing as a fatigue accumulation as we're going down deeper in the winter, as we're getting closer, March, April, like you're depleted, you're
Yeah.
deprivated, light. And when you go out for a week, it creates a few effects. Remember how we were talking about social events, what happens before? You're looking forward to that. What happens during and what happens after? What I notice is that, summer finishes, you're at 100%. February is here, you're like at 30%. You go on that weekly trip, you go back to like 80%.
Yeah.
And now you can work your way down, and next thing you know, it's May, right?
Yep.
So
No, you're right. Like even like a trip to another place, country or wherever it's warmer, it's gonna, when you come back, it's gonna bring you up. You know what you're coming back to, but you're prepped for it. You're prepared because you know what you left, right?
Well, and the idea is that you do want to be aware of how you do the trip, because I have done it. I went to Mexico for a month. I took off with my family. We rented a condo on the beach, and I was on the beach every day from sunset to sunrise.
Yeah.
Sunrise to sunset. I'm sorry. And then, anyways, a series of events led me to I mean, the story is long, so I'm not going to go into it. But I realized how I was hyped. I was way too hyped because I was just soaking so much sun and I wasn't canalizing it the right way. So, one day I got into drinking and I got into motorcycles accidents. And the next day I got into, it was going to be a whale watching with the family, and I'm all hyped too. And it's because like so much sun,
Yeah.
So you do want to be,
Mindful.
you can have a negative effect if all you do is to go to an all you can eat resort buffet lifestyle and drink your way up to the grave. You know what I mean? So, especially if you can do it where it's a mindful, relaxing place that allows you to disconnect and just somehow like re-encounter yourself. I mean, it sounds like
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating, right?
No,
But
it had to connect with yourself again and
yeah,
remember who you are, right?
yeah. I mean, that is the goal. So that's why it's called a retreat, right? That's what's
Mhm.
not called a, like I'm calling it a retreat because that's the intention. And sure, there's gonna be some kite surfing. I mean, where it is paradise. Like I found paradise, and I just want to share with my people. So it has a good intention behind. Let's just go there, have some fun, relax, rest, and come back charged.
Mhm.
Ready to basically finish our winter strong and be ready for the springtime.
So now this trip is it for like anybody? Anyone can tag along or
Yeah, so we're in the early stages of developing our community. So this year we didn't make it available to the community. Next year
okay.
it's gonna be available, and we're gonna be marketing it. This year is friends basically.
Yeah.
I got 5 rooms, and this like it's an ecological boutique kite surf yoga hotel nested in the virgin side of Roatan, Honduras, which is the top 2 island of the world with the second biggest reef of the world in the Caribbean with a kite surf. It's world renowned for kite surfing, and it's like in a virgin area where it's just all palm trees and hammocks and white
Oh.
beach, and yeah, yeah. So
My
so
levels just went up to here now, I think.
yeah. I mean, if you want to come,
Mm, mm.
you can come 100%. Like, take it. If you want to come, I can give you the details after. We're gonna be there on the February 2nd this year. So we're gonna be there in less than 2 weeks.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah. So I still have room if you wanna tag
It's a
along.
little
Yeah,
too late for
I
me,
know. Yeah,
but
yeah, I know. Yeah, we didn't market it this year. But my point is one of those yearly rituals, perhaps, that
yeah.
I found extremely beneficial, that I found that really motivate me, and that I just want to get people to also apply in their lives. And it's going to be seasonal movement people. So we're going to have plenty of time to have
Well, yeah.
fun, to
You know what I mean?
talk.
When you do promote this, and you schedule it, it's also connecting you to people from around the world. So now, you get to learn about different people's backgrounds and where they come from. And of course, if the topic comes up, talk about your seasonal winter blues. I mean, you don't really want to kind of do that, I guess. I don't know, on a trip
No,
where you're trying
no,
to get
yeah.
away from it, but
Yeah. Yeah. So the seasonal movement is not just for seasonal affective disorder people. We have taken that approach in our social media because it's just a way to give back. Like I
okay.
felt like to begin with, I just want to serve them immediately because my understanding of how that feels like and giving them tips and so on. But we're very quickly just changing into an all year round message. We just started there because it has been like in my heart to serve them.
Yeah.
But this is actually mostly in line with entrepreneurs that are just seeking a harmony in their lives, that are seeking to grow in every single area of their lives. I'm talking like, I'm not successful because I have $1 million in my bank account or a $10 million net worth. I'm also successful because I'm in peace with myself, because I have a life work balance, which supposedly doesn't exist, but
Mhm.
I take care of my family. I am a good father, a good husband, and I exercise. I want to have good health. I want to connect spiritually.
Mhm.
I want to have good connections. So it's more of creating that community. And the one linking subject is the fact that we can use the seasons and the environment as just basically patterns. Like, patterns are coming and going throughout the year.
Yep.
I recognize that they are cyclical, meaning they repeat themselves. So it's completely worth it to pay attention. And that's what I've just been doing, paying attention to a high level and really understanding how they affect us, so that we can come up with a plan that once you do it one year, you can just repeat all your life. Because they're going
Mhm.
to be very similar the following year. So when you do the little work of start paying attention and creating those seasonal routines, that's going to be there for next year. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
there's
No,
going to
I'm
be a
following
cycle
you.
back to it. So it's just, again, about achieving more with less effort, because when you know how the flow goes, how the pattern goes, you just tag into it and you
Yeah.
follow the pattern. You just go with the current.
So we're winding down here now. So your contact info. Where can people find you at, and how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so if you're watching this episode, there should be a link that will guide you to all my social media platforms. So the Seasonal Movement is on Instagram, Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn as Ruben Gomez dash the Seasonal Movement. Then Facebook, I think, is Ruben Gomez dash the Seasonal Movement as well. But I hope that we can provide you with a link.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Send me all the links to everything in the chat when we're done or whenever you get time.
Yep. We have a media kit, so we're going to provide that. And then we also have basically a starter kit, meaning like how can you use the energy of this season to create your routine for the season? So we just give you information about what to look for, like what is kind of ahead on, what is coming on the corner.
Yep.
And just these are the things that you have to look for, and this is what you can do. So it's very practical, and it is short. It means the meaning for it is to help you take a few action steps immediately so that you can align yourself with the seasonal rhythm ahead, like the one that you're experiencing right now.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. I look forward to that. Now, do you use TikTok at all?
We do have TikTok as well, yes.
Now, what do you think of the band that's supposed to take place on that?
I have no idea, man.
Yeah, the states are apparently shutting TikTok down, or they're going to try to vote to shut it down and get rid of it. Yeah.
I have no idea. Yeah, no, we do have a TikTok and we post daily, but it's not a platform. I'm a millennial, so I didn't grow up into it.
Yeah.
I'm old school, man. I use Facebook, even Instagram.
Even for me, Facebook, I find I'm slowly, and I was doing a show earlier today, and I was talking to someone, and I said I find I'm slowly drifting away from Facebook.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it seems like all the social platforms are looking more like the same. Like LinkedIn looks like Facebook, and then Facebook looks like Instagram.
Yeah, like Facebook is becoming
Yeah, they are all kind of like morphing into the same thing.
Well, I'm pretty sure Facebook owns Instagram anyway.
Yeah. But they're all looking very similar lately.
Yeah, no, I know, and it's you read so many comments. It's like, well, I use this app instead of TikTok, and I use that, and this is better. And it's like, where's everybody at so I can join it?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we're everywhere, but at the same time, we're nowhere, right? Like, where can you find us? Everywhere.
Right, yeah. I know. Like, I'm very fortunate enough that I've met you and we reached out and connected, and we were able to get this conversation going because I think this is an important topic for people, especially around Christmas time too. And it's not just seasonal depression, but then you got the stress of finances.
Oh yeah,
on top of the seasonal depression and everything, and it all.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like that's where we look at social events. Social events affect everybody very differently.
Mm-hmm.
One common theme is that we're all affected by it.
Yeah.
So you still have to put in your own, but when you're talking about finances, again, stress, cortisol levels going up, it's a neurochemical party going in your brain that just gets out of whack during that time of the year.
Yeah, before we take off, what about vitamins? Like, do you recommend for yourself, or even just for yourself, certain vitamins that...
If I show you my vitamin stack, right, it's like all gene supplements and this and that. But again, I just want to make sure that we don't bypass the foundation. Mm-hmm. Not just the cherry on top of the cream, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, like I have when we switch into the fall, I go with vitamin, I believe is D.
D, yeah.
And then vitamin E, and vitamin C. I have them downstairs. So I have multivitamins, and I take 3. Oh, and fish oil. Fish oil, the one that comes from the sun, I always forget. And then depending how I'm feeling, I drop in a vitamin C because, again, you want to pay attention. This is like flu season, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Or it's an allergy season.
Mm-hmm.
This comes with the seasons, right? That's what we call a season because it's repetitive, it's cyclical. So during those times of the year, you want to supplement yourself differently. So I do have a stack of vitamins that I just kind of rotate throughout the year. It's not the same. It changes.
I know in the grocery store, I like sometimes when the flu season does roll around, it's probably the only, and I should be taking vitamins, our body does lack them, but
Yeah.
the one thing, it's vitamins plus C or something. It's got like 1,000 milligrams of certain things in it. And I just take that and it's like, whoo, it's almost like drinking a Red Bull at first, but then it's kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
you take them every second or third day or once a week, whenever you take, and then you get immune to them. Then I stop them because I don't want to become reliant on them. Like I do want my body to naturally fight,
Yeah.
the
Yeah, well,
germs off.
it's not just vitamins, it's just supplements.
Mhm.
So a supplement would be a lime little tea, or
Yeah.
lemon drink. My wife and my mom make one. They just put the lemon on it, hot water, honey, and then you taste amazing. But it's just a vitamin C shot.
Yeah. That's basically
So
what this is. It's just a vitamin, a little power, take a drink. Pshung.
yeah. So when we look at adjusting or eating habits, we look at or eating window. Like fasting becomes very good to do it in certain times of the year, or now it becomes easier as well. And then frequency and intensity. So timing, frequency, and intensity, and that's how we kind of look at eating. And again, since we go season by season, we're like, hey, this might be something you want to consider eating a little more this time of the year.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. All right, Ruben, it's been awesome talking to you. We definitely have to keep in touch, keep in contact with one another, and we'll get you back on here and we'll see, maybe we'll do a comparison from a year from now or 6 months from now to see where the seasonal movement is.
that's why it gets fun if we do it in the summer.
Yep.
So then you can relate and say, this is how I'm feeling now. It's so much different. And also to see, this is what I realized in these last 6 months. Because I'm telling you, your brain is going to start picking them up like flies now. Oh my gosh, I just realized of this. Oh my gosh, I just realized of this.
And I'm actually, you know what? I'm actually starting from tomorrow. I will start writing everything down from now until we do one in the summer again.
Sounds good. Yeah, then let's keep in touch and let's do it again. I will see you in the summer, Justin. Thank you for having me.
Take care.
Alrighty, bye.